Hello and welcome back to No Bullshit. Today we're going to take a peek behind the curtain and see what a certain group of a certain political leaning does when no one is watching but their own kind. And believe me, this video is about to get cringy as hell. The Democratic Socialists of America had a convention last week, and it seems like everyone is talking about the videos coming from it, but not in a good, positive, supportive way though. Basically, clips are being shared all over the internet. Clips from this socialist event that people are laughing at immensely. In these clips, you'll see talks about privilege, gender pronouns, and all kinds of other crazy stuff. And it's also a good way to see where all this politically correct social justice warrior bullshit is leading us. If the liberals and leftists had their way, and they had full control of the country as they wish, we would all be socialist losers like this, arguing about made-up privileges and constantly getting bogged down by pronoun games and other complaints. So, since we already know why socialism itself is bad, it's a failed economic system that has only brought other countries shitty living conditions, breadlines for food, and corruption and death, well, since we already got that basis covered, let's go ahead and move on to the video of a socialist event, so we could see why we don't want our society and culture to be led by a bunch of poor weirdos like this, who want free handouts instead of working real jobs. That's right. Here's some clips from a video from this Democratic Socialist Conference. Take a look so you can see what I'm talking about.
Quick point of personal privilege.
Yes.
Guys, first of all, James Jackson, Sacramento, he, him. I just want to say, can we please keep the chatter to a minimum? I'm one of the people who's very, very prone to sensory overload. There's a lot of whispering and chatter going on. It's making it very difficult for me to focus. Please, can we just, I know we're all fresh and ready to go, but can we please just keep the chatter to a minimum? It's affecting my ability to focus. Thank you.
Wow, there's just so many things wrong with this guy, I don't know where to start. First, he begins with a point of privilege, which sounds like he's talking about white privilege or something, but really, that's just something you say in an official meeting like this. Next, he does a little self-promotion, followed by identifying his pronouns as he and him. That's right, a grown-ass man living in current-day America is identifying his pronouns in real life. And this bullshit socialist meeting is only getting started. And this pronoun game is something I've only seen on Twitter, mostly. And usually when you see someone noting their pronouns on Twitter, it's a pretty good sign they're one of the biggest liberal douches of all time. Most of the time, they're just the usual he or she pronouns anyway, but they need to identify what they want to be called specifically as a way to pander to those radicals who go by their opposite pronoun, neutral ones like they, or the real loons who use pronouns like Z and Zer or whatever. Yes, this is the level of lunacy we're dealing with these days. And these are the kinds of liberals that make their whole party look bad. These are the young, new generation of left-wingers. And they're a group we have to deal with regardless. And they're not only radically left and socialist, possibly communist, but they're also pronoun-obsessed, gender-focused, and identity-focused losers. So the way I see it is, the people who are this fixated on identity politics, like this, well, that's usually because they're not interesting and don't have anything of value to offer the world besides their identity. That's why instead of having a personal voice and being your own person, who just happens to be a certain gender or race, well, instead of that, these sad individuals have to focus on their gender and race completely and absolutely, because they got nothing else going for them. They don't identify as, say, a college student studying law, or a basketball fan or player, or even a video game lover. No, these people focus on inherent traits they were born with, like being female or black or gay or something. And these identities are what they boil themselves down to because they're not interesting enough and they don't have enough going on in their lives to be called anything else.
Thank you, comrade. Okay, is there a speaker against name, chapter, pronouns?
Point of personal privilege.
Yes.
Please do not use gendered language to address everyone.
Quick point of privilege once again. Quick point of privilege once again. Hi, James Jackson, Sacramento DSA, he, him.
This James guy just can't stop repeating his name and pronouns, can he? Get over yourself, dude. You're wearing a 3 Arrows t-shirt, not ironically, by the way. Get a life. And there was a guy who could barely speak before this. I kind of felt bad for him. He was stuttering and stuff, but he was the one talking about banning all gendered language. What the heck? First pronouns and now banning gendered terms? This is all getting out of hand. Finally, they start calling each other comrades, and then that shows me what's really going on here. These guys in the video, wait, I'm sorry, that's a gendered term. These people, well, they're frickin' LARPers. They're live action role playing, making themselves out to be these communist, socialist saviors for the people. What a goddamn joke. And back in my day, the socialists and communists were equivalent to Russians and Chinese. Not the worst places in the world, but certainly not as nice as the United States. And there's a reason life in America is above and beyond these shitholes and their oppressive authoritarian governments. It's because we have freedom and we love capitalism. And we're living in a country that's a constitutional republic. We get to vote for our leaders. And our so-called democracy is why we're way far and above and doing better than all the failed socialist and communist states out there today. Sure, you could argue Russia bounced back a bit in recent years, but that's only because the USSR dissolved. They abandoned socialism and became capitalist, and that's why they're doing better now. And as for China, well, they have managed to grow and become an economic superpower, sure, but that's only because their government is crazy and controlling as hell. Chinese people can't even use the internet on their own, and they've got all kinds of other crazy anti-religion, anti-protest laws there too. That's why things are going to shit in Hong Kong currently, right now. China's trying to finally lock down that city that was once free and prosperous. So no, we don't want to be comrades here in America. Socialism will never work in the US, and it will never happen because socialism and its ugly brother communism are the opposite of what the American dream is. Funny how it's the PC-pushing liberals who want a big government-controlled authoritarian state, probably because they know their beliefs are failing in the market of ideas, so they have to resort to forcing their socialism down everyone's throats, just like how Russia did and how China still does for years and years.
I have already asked people to be mindful of the chatter of their comrades who are sensitive to sensory overload, and that goes double for the heckling and the hissing. It is also triggering to my anxiety. It's so that people aren't going to get triggered and so that it doesn't affect their performance as a delegate, okay? Your need to express yourself is important.
Looks like they had to cut that James guy off there. Even these editors putting these cringy clips together realized that that guy needs a break. They cut away just when he was realizing how wrong his demands were. Basically, this guy has some real issues too. Not only is he complaining about being sensitive to sound and distracted by noises from the crowd, but also the audience was triggering his anxiety as well. Wow, not really sounding like a sane, balanced, well put together individual, is he? Definitely not someone we should be taking political advice from. This guy can barely get out of the house without being triggered. Triggered being another stupid SJW term, by the way, which they just used. But yeah, I obviously don't think our country and its people should be taking ideas and political direction from underdeveloped snowflakes like this, who frankly appear sheltered and out of touch with the real world. Too many safe spaces for these wackadoos to understand how the real world works. But now, let's get back to why he got cut off at the end of this clip. I love this part because he's complaining about the people in the crowd talking and whispering, and then he almost realizes, hey, wait, they have rights and perhaps they need to talk and participate to feel comfortable. James here almost realizes that other people exist and they have preferences too, but then James here immediately defaults back to his own personal needs, being selfish like he is, and he obviously thinks his preferences trump everyone else's, according to him. And these kinds of assholes would make all of these 200 or so people sit in perfect silence if they could, while softly breathing and not having any movement at all. They would gladly put everyone else in an uncomfortable situation if it meant they got their own selfish, dramatic demands met and they got their way. And this is kind of a good analogy for socialism in America if you think about it. No one in our country wants this democratic socialism bullshit. Its supporters are clearly in a small, almost insignificant minority. But much like how this James guy has no problem imposing his weird, out there preferences onto the greater majority, like at this meeting, so too will the Democratic Socialists of America gladly push their failed, minority-held political beliefs and ideology onto everyone else, despite most of us not being cool with it.
I see that no one's clapping for me. It could be because I'm not engaging, but it also is because everyone's doing this. And that's really important because those loud bursts of noise, even though this is a noisy space, when we can do something like reducing that, that's really important. So please don't clap, shoot up these.
Ah, the old jazz hands applause trick. Another classic liberal lunacy. It's like they're hitting us up with all the SJW's greatest hits at this DSA meeting. Privilege, pronouns, anxiety claims, and now the infamous jazz hands. This is basically a quiet way to clap that comes from the deaf people's sign language, actually. And we previously went over a story where college campuses are trying to ban clapping in favor of jazz hands. Or, to put it simply, jazz hands is where you stick your hands up and kind of shake them instead of clapping. Clapping can apparently be offensive and triggering now, not only because it's loud and sets off softies like James here, but also clapping is fun and liberal Democrats can't be having any of that going around. Then there's also another angle to this too. Clapping means you support something, or you support someone's speech or performance. So not clapping would mean you don't like something, and that's not okay in current year. These days, no one can lose anymore. That's why kids in children's sports leagues all get participation trophies, even if they lose. And so too do public acts and speakers. Well, they're all supposed to get uniform praise because not liking something in 2019 is offensive, at least according to left-wingers.
We have a lot of disabled comrades, and a lot of those are invisible disabilities. You don't know who it is that is having a more difficult time navigating this space, and this space was not created with all of their needs in mind. So it's up to us to modify that space to make sure that everybody is able to move in the ways that they need to move.
Basically, they're trying to please everybody. Every whiny, weak-willed lefty with a complaint about noise, smell, light intensity, or whatever, every whim of these soft, pudding-filled liberals must be brought to the forefront, and they're attempting to accommodate them all. This will never work, of course, because you can never really please everyone, let alone can you please radical leftists like this who are just never happy and always want to complain. First, the sound is too loud, then the lights are too bright. Next, the air conditioning is sexist, and so on and so forth. These people are brought up to complain like this, and that's why they're all there. And that's why this whole democratic socialist movement is so cringy and off-putting to the public.
We have quiet rooms that are available. There's a range of options of these, right? Please don't go into that space with anything that's like an aggressive scent, for instance, right? Because we don't want to put people in stressful situations that they don't consent to, right? And there are right-wing infiltrators who are trying to get in here.
Damn, they even have their own little quiet safe spaces there on location, in case someone is triggered too bad. This is just too much for me. It's hard to believe this is all real. When you put all these stupid liberal buzzwords and the PC culture terms all together perfectly like this, it's almost like we're watching a real-life episode of South Park, the comedy cartoon show. South Park, of course, grilled liberals in their safe spaces like this in the past, and watching this DSA meeting is almost like seeing a parody like that come to life. But now, the left is almost beyond parody at this point. I mean, how can you even exaggerate something like what we're seeing in this video? Real life is already going so far to the extreme, you couldn't even make an exaggerated parody joke of the left anymore, because if it's not happening in real life already, whatever extreme you think of will eventually come to be, possibly at this meeting of the DSA. Terrible optics for their cause too, by the way. Whoever filmed and uploaded this meeting, which had to be one of them since it appears to be officially recorded by their internal team, well, putting this out there to the public was a really bad PR move for their cause. But they're probably too dense and too far gone to realize that, and hey, I'm not complaining. This has given us lots of laughs.
Don't really talk to anybody who doesn't have a credential, especially if they claim to be from the press. You have no idea who that person is. Please do not talk to anybody who identifies themselves as a member of the press without having credentials.
Why though? What exactly is the group trying to hide? I guess they probably should be shielding themselves from the embarrassment of getting more publicity, because clearly they're a group of unhinged, barely sane individuals who quite possibly are losing their minds. But if they were so worried about their image, then why did they record this video in the first place? I guess they may be so far gone they don't even realize how bad and sheltered this whole meeting makes them look. In the end, this is the future of the Democratic Party right here. These are young liberals who have been enticed into socialism by politicians like Bernie Sanders and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. And I gotta say, I don't like where this is going clearly. Not only are their political beliefs terrible and they're bad ideas for this country, but also they're a group of triggered snowflakes who can barely leave the house in the morning without crying about bright lights and loud noises. Now, I of course pity people with actual disabilities and handicaps, but I also think it's safe to assume most of these people claiming they're disabled here at the DSA meeting, well, they're not. They're just whiny assholes looking for attention and special treatment. What do you guys think? Is this a good look for the Democratic Socialists of America? Will socialism ever take hold in America? With leadership like this, I highly doubt it. And by the way, do you think jazz hands are as silly as they sound to me? Comment your thoughts on everything below, and thanks for watching No Bullshit. Hit that like button if you enjoyed this video, and we'll see you all next time.